Welcome to the Unmasked Parenting Podcast. I'm Kimberly Cox. I'll be your host. I am so excited, so excited. I just did Mondays. So the other sister podcast of this is the Parenting Unmasked podcast. And so while the Parenting Unmasked podcast is all about parenting itself, right? We talk a little bit about the parent themselves, but most of it is about the kids and how to help your kids, your neurodivergent family, how to help them thrive in this world that is not made for them. So in the Unmasked Parent podcast, we aim over here to help late diagnosed, especially mothers, however fathers are in this boat and welcome as well. But we aim to help newly diagnosed or late diagnosed neurodivergent parents to reparent the inner child so that they can parent their kids the way that they needed to be parented as a child. When this first came out, I didn't have that wording for it. That wording did not come to pass until today, when I started to think about how to word this. And then I started to realize that we have to reparent ourselves because there were so many, and let's just face it, when you are neurodivergent, living in a neurotypical, holistic, however you want to word it, world, it is very difficult because it's like the world is not made for you. It's one of the best ways I could ever have had it described. Somebody said, I was watching I don't even remember, it was a YouTube video, I think. And this person had said it was like everyone else had been given the directions for life and I didn't get my copy. I didn't know. I didn't understand the ways that other people understood them. I didn't how I felt like things were supposed to be was just so different than what everyone else around me was experiencing. And because of that, there is this deep need for us to go in to reparent ourselves, to help ourselves in the ways that we were never helped as a child. So that then, let me first start out by saying I am sorry that you did not get a diagnosis back in the day. Because we all know that when our children are getting diagnosed, the earlier they get diagnosed, the sooner that we can put accommodations in place, the sooner we can help them learn how to work with their brain instead of fighting against it, the sooner they can start to see real progress and actually really starting to feel better about things, right? When we have kids that are diagnosed, okay, and this goes two ways, okay, because I'm dealing with it right now with my oldest. Even when they're diagnosed as kids, if they are put into a box, a container, a place where they are expected to, within a certain reason, be neurotypical, okay? I say this, the public schools do an awful lot of mainstreaming, okay? So they'll take kids whose brains do not necessarily work well being taught the same way that everyone else is being taught. And they'll pull them out to give them individualized instructions on things. But they try to keep them with their peers as much as possible. So they keep them in this classroom where they're expected to still act like their peers. Okay, they're expected to act like them. They're expected to do the same things that they do. They're expected to understand, maybe not completely, but within reason, they're expected to be like their peers. And then when they have trouble, which they will, because this is not just a focus thing. This is not just a memory thing. There's a lot of growing up, okay, especially when our kids are little. There's a lot of growing up and teaching your kids to be normal, productive, if you will. We're teaching them manners. We're teaching them how to respect people. We're teaching them social situations. We're teaching them emotional situations. All of those things still, in your memory still impacts all of those things. Your ability to focus still impacts all of those things. So this is not an academic only, I have trouble focusing, an academic only, I have trouble remembering things. This is, you're trying to teach me how to sit still, not talk, not fidget, focus on my work, learn 7 different subjects, and I'm still having trouble with even one of any one of those 5 with one subject. I can say a lot of things. I will reserve my arguments, and I will say this. We as parents, even if we have to put our children into environments like that, we can give them the words to say. We can give them the ability to stand up for themselves. We can give them the ability to say, okay, I know that you want me to switch to another subject right now. I'm still 2 subjects behind trying to figure this thing out, and I've skipped over these 2 entirely. Can we come back, finish this one, help me understand this, and then I can move forward? I think a lot of times as kids, the kids are thinking, everybody else has caught on, everybody else has gotten it, why haven't I? And what happens after a long period of time, and if you yourself were in school and had to deal with this, you will probably identify with at least part of this, which is we start to blame ourselves. We start to try to figure out, the older we get, the more logically we can think. And the more we start to try to logicalize it, make it a logical thing. Okay, so if I'm having trouble with this and this and this, it's my fault because nobody else is. So now how do I have to work harder? I have to try more. I have to do more. And we wear ourselves out trying to make everybody else happy instead of being able to say, look, I'm still here. I'm stuck here because I feel like this is something that I either need to know or should know, should already understand by now, whatever. I'm stuck here. Can you help me unstick myself, figure this out so that we can move forward? And when our kids don't have those words, they just get ran over and ran over and ran over. And at a certain point, they start to just feel like it's useless and senseless and none of it's ever going to get better. When in fact, it can get better much easier than they even realize, right? Much easier than we realized. Because all we have to do is take the pressure off of ourselves and realize that we don't have to fit in that box. That box was not meant for our brain type. And so as soon as we realize that these rules don't apply to us because we are not, it's again, I said it in Monday's podcast, I'll say it today. It's the difference of an Apple and an Android. You can't run an Android programming on an Apple and you can't run Apple programming on an Android. The rules are different. The programming is different. And once we get that, once we start to understand, it's simply just programming. It's how we program ourselves, how other people program us. We cannot be programmed by people that don't run our operating system because it won't work. It's going to backfire. It's going to fail. When we teach ourselves, when we help to program ourselves and we help to program our kids because we know this, we've been there, we've done this, we've seen this. When we help to do that, we are putting ourselves in a space where we are helping them, we are helping ourselves. Everybody is going to start to rise out of this feeling of not being able to do it, right? And that's what we want. That is our sole end goal, is what we're trying to do, is ourselves, our family, everybody raising up higher. I'm sorry that you were put in situations that made you feel less than. I am sorry that you were put in situations that made you feel like you didn't matter, like you didn't deserve this, like you weren't smart enough or focused enough or professional enough or whatever. That ends now. That ends now, because that programming is Android programming. We're running on Apple over here. And I'll re-throw it in here on this one too. Not saying that neurodivergent brains are superior, just the across the board, pretty much everybody has a PC, has an Android, whatever. Then you have your people who have Apple, your people who have MacBooks, your people who have a iPod or an iPad or an iPhone, whatever. And so in putting that all in there, that is one of those spaces where I feel like Apple is that not everybody has it. Just like neurodivergence is the not everybody has that operating system. Okay, moving forward. You guys are going to get a kick out of this if you guys are watching this on video. This is going to be a video podcast as well as on podcast platforms. Be sure you guys are commenting on things and sharing this out. And if you're listening to this and you really want some good laughs, watch it on the thing too, because my hand movements are just top tier today, I think. Anyway, coming from that space where we are reparenting ourselves, okay? We're starting to help ourselves see the bright, shiny lights that we are and that we were, and that the people who tried to put us in boxes, who tried to get us to conform, who tried to tell us that our way was not the right way because it wasn't their way. Okay? That's all. We don't have to deal with that anymore. All right? Some of you still, yes, if you have a boss and your boss is like that, I implore you to go find another job. Like, for real, because I think sometimes, and especially when it comes to family members and bosses, people who we feel like have some sort of authority over us, it can be very difficult for them to accept when we finally find ourselves and we see ourselves and we find our power and we know that we don't have to take that because we now know the truth, which is not that we are bad and awful and horrible and lazy and all these bad things we were told when we were younger. It is instead that we just do not run on the same operating system. And so our operating system, our programming has to be different. So we can help ourselves. We can come up with the programming and the ways to do things that work for us. Nobody else has to learn new programming for us. And I think sometimes that's all it takes, is people knowing that we know ourselves what we need and we're fully capable of doing those things if we're allowed to. And if that's the case and you have an amazing situation, whatever that may be, where that's the case, consider yourself lucky, or run with it, and good luck. For those of us who have not been in that situation, where we do not have as supportive of people, you are your own biggest validation. You do not have to look for validation from anybody else. And you can put yourself in new situations where people don't know you, and you don't have to tell them all the things. I can remember when I was younger and I would go to job interviews and I would have to tell them. I felt compelled. My sense of fairness and justice just did not feel like it was safe, or not safe, but did not feel like it was right for me to pretend that I was this wonderful, on-time, hard worker that always did exactly what I was supposed to do all the time. I didn't feel like I had the right to say that. And either I wouldn't say things, or I would say what the truth was, which was, I work and I want to work hard and I will try to work hard. But there are days when I'm late. There are days when things are messy. I am not perfect. But I said that from a place of feeling like I was not good enough because of that. Now I can come at it from a place of, I am smart and innovative. I have a mind of my own. I definitely know how to follow and chase after things that I want, and I know how to make improvements in things. Am I sometimes late? Yes. Am I sometimes a mess? Yes. However, there's 5 good things to the 2 bad here. You're gonna love me or you're gonna hate me, take me or leave me. Somebody's gonna want me. And I feel like that is a place that it's taken me a really long time to get here. It's taken me a really long time to feel comfortable enough in myself to be like, you are not a failure because you are not what other people want you to be. You are, in fact, a winner because go after what you want. You don't give up. You keep going. Even when you, quote, fail, you're not failing because you get back up and you keep going. You find something else. You take that determination and you just push it on to something else and we keep going. That's a winner. You're only a loser when you don't get back up. That is my place where I was just like, okay, I finally had to take it. And I've had moments where I've been like, do I go out and get a 9-to-5 for a little bit? That would certainly help right now because I have a lot of big dreams and a lot of big goals. Even if everything is paid for, which it is, and everything is fine, which it is, there's still more that I want, right? And I sit back and I go, but I have the ability in myself to make that. I don't have to go and put myself into a position where I'm forced to not be able to be myself. I can make it because I shine bright enough that we've got this, and there's all kinds of different ways. I am saying that to say this. Whatever situation you are in, and you guys all know your situations, you all know more about your situations obviously than I do. What would you tell your child if your child was in that situation? And is that advice coming from a place of, this is what I was told to do, so I'm passing this on? Or is it because I truly believe it? Because this is where I think a lot of us just spit out the same stuff that was given to us as kids. Our parents didn't know how to parent us. A lot of our parents didn't even know that they are probably neurodivergent. So because they didn't know, they always felt like a fish out of water, right? And they just, okay, you just keep going and you keep trying and eventually you work hard enough, you make it. And so pass that along to their kids. And then we come in with this, okay, this is what we were told, so I guess this is what we have to pass on. And that's not always the right thing to do. Sometimes it is, all right? There is nothing in this world that's going to come to you for free, okay? Nothing. Everything has a price. You're going to work for everything in your life one way or another. And that is one of those things. You just have to decide. There's that saying, which is you choose your hard, right? So you can choose your hard, where you can go in and you can mask and you can be uncomfortable and you can, have to hype yourself up to go into work and then go into work and then mask and do all the things and then have to decompress when you get home, but that's guaranteed and that's there and that's whatever. Or you can follow your heart. You can change things up. You can still keep the job, but do things in your own way if you're able to. You can stand up for yourself and say, I'm going to do things this way. There's a number of different ways that we can do this, and everybody's situation is different, okay? However, at the end of the day, you have to be able to say to yourself, like, we did the best we could for ourselves. And at some point, the best that we could do, you're still learning. So as we talk about passing on the advice that our parents gave us, sorry, I'm probably going to hurt some feelings here and step on some toes, but that's the lazy way of doing it, okay? That's the way of like just passing on what was told to me. And I'm just going to sweep it on through. I'm not going to experience anything myself. I'm not going to do anything differently. I'm not going to try any new approaches. I'm just going to do what I was told to do and then pass the fact that I have to do what I was told to do and they have to do what they're told to do on. And no. I, for one, do not choose to live that way. I choose to work by trial and error, figuring out what accommodations help me. And a lot of times it's just simply things like, oh, we can work standing up, or we can work from home, or we can take breaks, or we can have something that keeps us fidgeting so that we can think, or there's lots of different little things that little accommodations we can put into place. Finding those and doing those is going to help. When we can figure out what accommodations work for us, it's going to help our kids, because then we're going to be like, oh, this is what it feels like. This is what it feels like to be accommodated. So this podcast is specifically designed to help us, again, reparenting ourselves. What are some of the things as a child do we look back on and go, oh, if I had that, it would have been easier? I hear this a lot in like comments and reading things, especially when it comes to gentle parenting and things like that. I hear both sides of the coin, where one side is, oh, I wish I had somebody treat me that way when I messed up. Like, I got this or that, or this bad thing or that bad thing happened to me. And then the flip side of that, which is, I got in trouble, I got whooped, I got this, I got that, but because that happened, I am who I am. Therefore, it must have worked. It must have been the right thing to do, because I am who I am because of it. And I feel like that is the lie that we tell ourselves, that this horrible thing had to happen to us to help us, when in fact it really didn't have to happen. It happened, yes, and maybe in it happening it helped you to learn something that you hadn't learned before, but that didn't mean that it had to happen that way. And there are lots of ways of teaching people and helping people understand that do not involve any type of violence or anger or aggression, right? Reparenting ourselves a lot of times is going to look like gentle parenting ourselves. It's going to look like giving ourselves the love, the unconditional love that no one gave us growing up. The unconditional, it's okay that your brain does not fit with this group of people. It's okay that you feel different. It's accepting ourselves for who we are, okay? Accepting ourselves for who we are, and then moving through and realizing that we are not less because of who we are. We are not less. We are still whole. We are still able to function in society. There are ways that we can do that. And then we have to take a big, deep inventory into what we really want. Because a lot of times the reason why we struggle in society is because we were told that we needed to want something that we didn't really want. Okay? I know a lot of people on both sides of this vast spectrum. I know a lot of neurodivergent people who love to just pick up and go and do and be spontaneous and have fun and do things and be on the go all the time. I also know a lot of neurodivergent people that are just fine in a house, sitting at home, like having a very quiet, normal life, right? And I think sometimes we get shoved into this idea that a lot of us were smart as kids, are smart, not were, are. But as kids, we were smart. We proved that we had more knowledge. And so a lot of times our parents didn't know what else to do. So they'd shove us down these career paths of doctors or lawyers or executives or whatever, where you're going to have some of that, where even if you didn't finish, that was the intended goal when you were little, was you were going to get this really good paying, really successful job. And then there are those of us who, those who are not, I've like always known that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I figured that out at like 15 years old. Kid you not, figured it out at 15, that whatever it was that I was going to do, I wanted to do it for myself. And I've always been a very self-aware person. Sometimes I have hid and lied and not allowed myself to be aware. But once I allowed myself to, I am very open and was able to see very quickly why that would work for me and everything. Not everybody is the same. So for you, it might be that you don't want to work for anybody and you do want to work for yourself. But it might be that you're willing to, okay, I could take this job making phone calls from home or answering phones from home, and it's going to make enough money to put a roof over my head and feed my family, and we can go do a couple things a month, and that's good enough for me, and I'm fine with that. Or it could be that you just want more. You want exciting, you want big, and there's nothing wrong with either. And I think that's a place that we also need to come to, is whatever it is that you want, you're allowed to have, and there's nothing wrong with it. There are people who will say, oh, you're so smart. You can't waste your potential on this. You need to be doing this stuff. And to those people, I say, look, let them make their own decisions. Because maybe right now that's what they want to do. And maybe in 10 years from now, something will happen and they'll have a spark and they'll go, ooh, I want to do this. And then they'll do that. I feel like we all are only in control of ourselves. And yet so much of what we do is based on what other people do, or trying to make other people do certain things, or trying to persuade people to doing certain things. And when we step back and we just go, look, everybody develops in their own time. That happens from baby on up, right? Babies don't all start walking and crawling and talking and doing all that stuff at the same time. They're all over the place. Adults, it's the same thing. Whenever you figure out what it is that you want, go chase that thing. In the meantime, parent yourself gently. Remind yourself that you did not have all of the information available to you. If you were late diagnosed, you did not have all of the information available to you back in the day. You didn't understand your brain. You didn't understand why you were the way you were. The only thing that you knew was what other people said about you as a kid. You're lazy. I'm not lazy, but there's no way that I can get you to understand how not lazy I am, because no amount of extra work, no amount of extra doing is proving to you that I'm not lazy. So when we come to those kinds of things, we have to just go, look, it sucked. I don't like it. I don't like some of the things that I was told when I was a kid. I don't like some of the ways that I was treated. I don't like any of that. But I have to take a deep breath and say, you know what? It happened. And we can parent ourselves through that. We can say, what would you say to your kid if someone said that now? We can tell ourselves that. So that little girl who was 14 years old, who got up on stage and sang in front of a whole bunch of people, I was sick the week before, still sick while I did it. My voice cracked. It was horrible. Because my voice cracked, I went into this panic mode, which made my voice shaky in front of everybody. And I got horrible marks in a singing competition that made me want to throw away singing forever because it didn't feel fair. I knew exactly why that happened. It wasn't that I couldn't sing. It was because I was sick. It was because all of these things happened in a way that was out of my control. And enough people said, you just need more practice. You just need more practice. You just need... I was singing all day, every day. How much more practice do you need? And I've actually never told this story before. So I would tell that 14-year-old girl, you did the best you could. And they don't know all of the circumstances, so they don't have all of the information to make an informed decision. And it's not fair to the other people. If you had a bad day and other people had a bad day and everybody got a do-over, it would go on forever, right? There has to be a stop. Just has to be, just for order. I would have told myself, you need to get up and you need to try again next year. But instead I didn't. And nobody told me that I needed to try again. They allowed me to quit because they didn't want to upset me. They didn't want to rock the boat. They didn't want to push and make me uncomfortable. And I would have pushed myself. I would have, as a kid or as an adult, I would have pushed myself because hindsight 2020, right? But I can come at myself and I can say, look, you don't have to give up your love of singing. You don't have to give up your deep desire to have music in your life. Because back in the day, some people decided to make you mad about something, decided that to get into your sense of justice and make you feel like it was never going to be okay anyway. So I can come from that place and I can say, how do we move forward? What do? We sing, we get music involved. I've thought about starting a music channel at some point, and it's probably going to be in the cards next year. I still have to get all the equipment and stuff to do it, but it is a deep desire of mine, and it always has been. Parenting ourselves, finding those moments that were tender, that made us hurt, and revisiting those from the knowledge that we have now, and the knowledge that the people that said those things, did those things, made those decisions, did not have the knowledge. So I have knowledge that they did not have. They made this decision based on no knowledge. I'm making another decision. We are going to right this wrong in our heads, right? So maybe they called you lazy. You're not lazy. You were trying really hard, extra hard. And on the flip side of it, you burned out. And it's okay, because anybody who's trying that hard is going to burn out after a while. It's going to happen. I need you to take some deep breaths, and I need you to give yourself a hug, and I need you to remind yourself that you're worthy and that it's okay, and that you can pick yourself right back up and go right back down that path if that's what you want to do. Or if you found another path that you want to go down, you can go down that path. But you don't have to go down that path from the idea that you're lazy or not enough or too much or any of those things. All of those things that were said to you, all of those things that hurt you, they were said and done by people who didn't have all of the information. And on this flip side, we can realize what the truth is. And sometimes the truth is, we may have looked lazy because we may have been trying so hard that we burned out. Lazy and burnout are two different things, okay? So while the world looks at you as you're being lazy when you're burned out because they don't see all of the work and the effort, they don't understand how much goes into being neurodivergent in a neurotypical world. They just don't see it because to them it's easy. It's, oh, if I don't know the answer, I just look it up in the book. Okay, I'm giving you an open book test, but you don't get the book. That doesn't seem fair, does it? Here's this open book test. What do you mean you don't have a book? Nobody gave it to you? I don't have one. I don't know where you're supposed to get the book. Everybody else has one. See what that does? It's not your fault. We reparent ourselves. And then from this place of being reparented, we can parent our own kids. And what we don't have is this anger and bitterness that our kids get it better than we did, because we've officially reparented ourselves. So we feel like we've made right the wrong that other people did. And now we can step into this new place where instead of feeling like, of course, everybody else gets their accommodations and everybody else gets their things, but I never got mine, and I'm still living in this world and I'm still fighting for accommodations. Again, I love you. I love all of you. And if you are listening to this and this is hitting your toes and you are feeling it, I want you to message me. Find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram, find me on TikTok or YouTube. Send me a message, send it to my email. My email is going to be in everything too. Send me something. I want to talk to you. Because if you're still listening to this point and you're still feeling your toes being stepped on, you are there, okay? You are there. You are here for a reason. You know it. I know it. Let's get you to the other side of this so that you can start parenting from that place of freedom. So you can start living your own life from that place of freedom, from that place of being free of what everybody else thinks and says and does to you and of you. That's the goal. That is the goal. When we learn to accept ourselves, we learn to reparent ourselves, we learn that we can take the mask off in the right situations. We learn that there are times when we do have to mask. Yeah, we're going to have to work harder sometimes. It is what it is. We're neurodivergent. It just is. Is that fair? No, not really. But again, the famous things that our parents always say, life isn't fair, and it's not. However, as much as life isn't fair, we have advantages, sometimes a lot of advantages. Sometimes we are very smart and things come very easily to us that it does not come easily to for other people. And so I want you to keep that in mind too. I happen to be one of those people that self-awareness and emotional intelligence happen to come very easily to me. And so I can work through my feelings. It's not always fun. It doesn't make it easier, but I know that I can, and I know how to. And I know that when I do that, I can get over that lesson cycle, and then we can move on to the next one. And yeah, there's always going to be a next one. However, the more you do it and the more you exercise that muscle, the less strenuous it is, and the more it's just like putting in the work, right? We're just putting in the work. We're doing the normal, whatever. At the beginning, it hurts. It sucks. It feels hard. It hurts bad sometimes, but the more we get used to it, just like muscles, when you're building up your muscles, the more you do it, the easier it gets. This went completely a way that I did not expect it to go, but it's okay because I know that it's here for a reason. I know there are people who are going to listen to this and need this. I actually thought about redoing it, but I'm not. I'm not going to redo it. We're going to leave this as the intro to this podcast. And I'm going to say this, just from this episode alone, the other one, the Unmasked Parenting Unmasked podcast, that one went pretty according to how I planned it to go. This one, I don't even think I touched on maybe one thing that I wanted to touch on, but it's okay. Because this is the baseline and this is the unexpected one, right? This is the one where we're going to get deep and we're going to talk about topics that are not always pleasant, but we're doing it in good company and we're doing it for good reasons. If you are watching this, you want better. You want to grow. You want to improve yourself for your family because you see how when you improve yourself, everybody else's lives get better around you, right? You see how when you take time for yourself, you have more to give. You see how when you parent yourself, when you take time to think about those wounds and those places that you've been hurt, and you dig down deep and you say, okay, what was it that actually hurt me? How was I feeling? And you validate that feeling. You say, you had every right to feel that way because that was bad. And then you say, and you know what? Maybe this part was true or this part's wrong or whatever. This is how we're going to move forward. And you give that inner child a hug and hope, right? Hope that this is how we're moving forward, away from the people who tell us that we're not good enough, that we're too much, that we're too lazy or stupid or all of those bad things. Again, we come back to a place of we're good enough for ourselves. We are exactly who we need to be, where we need to be, when we need to be. And moving forward is nothing but taking a step and just keep going one foot in front of the other. All right, guys, I am Kimberly Cox. This is the Unmasked Parent Podcast. If you got anything out of this, please leave a comment, subscribe, share this out to all of your neurodivergent parent friends, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.